There are 7 words in Genesis that every reader skips past. The daughters of men were fair. Not the sons, not the giants, the daughters. What if the most dangerous bloodline in the ancient world wasn't the one the Bible names, but the one it erased completely? Genesis 6 opens with a sentence so short it barely survives a first reading. The sons of God saw the daughters of men and took them as wives. Then a second name appears without warning: Nephilim, giants, men of renown. And then, almost as fast as it began, the story goes silent. No names, no explanation, no account of what happened to the women who bore them. Just judgment, arriving fast, and a flood that erases the question before anyone can ask it. But here is what nobody stops to consider. If those unions produced sons remembered for centuries, they produced daughters too. Scripture never says their name, not once. Long before modern debate, ancient readers understood exactly who these sons of God were. Not men, not kings, beings from somewhere else entirely. Jude confirms it. Angels who abandoned their assigned place are now chained in darkness, waiting for a judgment that hasn't arrived yet. The book of Enoch, quoted directly in Jude and known across the ancient world for centuries before it vanished from Western Bibles, calls them the Watchers. And Enoch does not summarize what they did. He documents it. 200 of them stood on Mount Hermon before a single one descended. Their leader feared the courage would break before the last step was taken, so he bound them together with an oath no one could walk back from. Then, together, they crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed. They took wives. They knew exactly what they were breaking. And what came from those unions was not simply large, it was wrong. Bodies built from a blueprint nothing on earth was designed to hold. Enoch describes the descent itself in a way that should unsettle anyone who reads it slowly. Not a single dramatic thunderclap, not a war cry against heaven, just 200 beings walking down a mountainside in complete agreement, in complete silence, already certain of what they intended to do once they reached the valley floor. There was no hesitation left to break. The oath had already taken care of that. That's the part almost no retelling ever slows down for. Not the giants, not the violence that followed. The walk down the mountain was made by beings who had already decided the cost was worth paying. At first, the Nephilim ate. Entire harvests gone in a season. Then the food ran out, and the hunger didn't. What followed wasn't famine, it was violence, spreading the way fire spreads through dry grass, until Genesis collapses the entire horror into a single sentence. Every intention of the human heart is only evil, continually. Not sometimes, not mostly, only. And here is the question almost no one asks out loud. Every line of that story is about the sons, the giants, the warriors, the mighty men whose names outlived them. Where are the daughters? Genesis doesn't answer. Enoch doesn't answer. That silence has outlasted every empire that tried to bury the question. And it is exactly what keeps this mystery alive tonight. Picture one of them. Not a giant, not a warrior. A girl born into a house that shouldn't exist, in a world already collapsing under its own weight, watching her brothers grow into something the earth couldn't hold. She would have had no armies, no name recorded on any tablet, only a face rumored to stop men mid-sentence, and a bloodline that made her too dangerous to marry and too strange to ignore. If her brothers took the world by force, what did she take instead? Scripture closes the door before we ever see her face, but somewhere in that silence, a girl grew up knowing she was not entirely human, and no one ever wrote down what that did to her. Then the water came. Every corrupted thing outside one ark went under it. The giants, the warlords, and the bloodline. Nothing was supposed to survive. One family remained. Whatever the daughters had become, the flood was supposed to be the final word on all of it. At least, that's where the story is supposed to end. But it doesn't. Centuries later, Israelite spies walk into Canaan and report something that should be impossible. Giants. Nephilim. The same word, the same terror in Numbers 13. They said they felt like grasshoppers standing next to them. Generations after that, a single giant named Goliath steps onto a battlefield and nearly ends Israel's future before a shepherd boy ever throws a stone. If the flood erased them, why do they keep coming back? Scripture never closes that loop. It leaves the door open, and everything that follows walks through it. Because across oceans, no ancient sailor could have crossed, without contact, without shared language, without any possible collaboration. The same figure keeps appearing. Not a myth, not a coincidence, a pattern. Start on a Greek coastline. A ship passes rocks where a voice, and only a voice, is enough to make hardened sailors abandon the oars and swim toward their own deaths. The Greeks gave that voice a name, Siren. Follow the pattern west into the river deltas of Central Africa, and the story changes its scenery but not its shape. A woman rises from the water, more beautiful than any wife a village elder could promise his son, and the men who see her are never quite the same again. They called her Mami Wata. Keep moving. Slavic villages built their fear into a warning for daughters, not sons. Stay away from the river at dusk, or the Rusalki will pull you under. Japan remembered her as the Ningjo, a presence beneath the waves older than the boats built to survive her. Ireland and Scotland buried their drowned sailors and called the sea itself a Selkie's grief, a beauty that could shed her skin and vanish back into the water whenever she pleased. Babylon carved her into stone as a being of water and forbidden wisdom, worshipped and feared in the same breath. Different names, different coastlines, different centuries. A remarkably similar woman. And the question this raises isn't whether these cultures copied each other. It's why they didn't have to. Two explanations exist. Either scattered civilizations, with no contact between them, invented the identical story from nothing, or they were never inventing anything. Perhaps they were remembering something older. If the Watchers fathered sons who became giants feared for 1,000 years after their death, what might their daughters have become? Not warriors, not conquerors, something quieter, something that didn't need strength, because beauty and a voice were enough. The sons took the land by force. Maybe the daughters never needed to. Maybe they only needed water and men who couldn't stop themselves from walking toward it. Somewhere beneath every civilization that ever built a harbor, the same memory seems to survive. A woman standing where the river meets the dark, waiting for the next man who mistakes beauty for safety. There is no verse that says this. No line in Genesis, no line in Numbers spells it out. But the Bible has a habit of leaving its most dangerous silences exactly where the questions get uncomfortable. And the silences don't stop at Genesis. Isaiah names a creature in the wilderness that translators have fought over for centuries. A night creature, a screech owl, or a name they refused to translate at all. Lilith. The same book speaks of the Tannin, sea monsters older than the ships built to survive them. Job goes further, describing Leviathan coiled in the deep, a creature no hook, no chain, no human strength could ever hold. Every time Scripture reaches for the ocean, it reaches for chaos. Something ancient. Something unfinished. Then Revelation ends the story, and one line in that ending should stop you cold. In the new heaven, in the new earth, the sea was no more. not calmed, not conquered, gone. Why does the sea have to disappear for creation to finally be whole? Why sit that detail next to the end of death, the end of sorrow, the end of every tear? Maybe because the sea was never just water. Maybe it was the last unfinished door left open since the world before the flood, and it takes the ending of all things to finally seal it shut. Scripture never names them. Enoch never names them. Not the daughters, not what they became. 3,000 years, and the question is still standing exactly where Genesis left it, wide open. Maybe that silence isn't an accident. Maybe some questions the Bible leaves open on purpose, not because the answer doesn't exist, but because you were never meant to stop asking them. Because that's the part of this story that matters far more than any giant or any voice beneath the waves. Every generation since Eden has faced the same quiet decision the daughters of the Watchers once faced: to inherit the darkness around us or refuse it. Noah's family stood in the middle of a corrupted world and chose to remain clean when nothing around them supported that choice. That's the real inheritance this story leaves behind. Not giants, not mermaids. A question about which bloodline you yourself are choosing to carry forward in the small decisions no one else will ever record. If this is the first time you've looked twice at those 7 words, stay with us. There's more buried in the silences than anyone has told you.